says I am live. I always give it a few seconds because it seems like it always takes a few seconds. I'm going to jump right into this and start with my background. I am 37 years old and I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, but I didn't spend that much time in Louisville until I was an adult. I moved to Indiana. I say that like I was a newborn baby, did that on my own, right? My parents and our family moved when I was very small. So I consider my hometown the town that I have technically spent most of my life in, but I have grown up. I I lived in Southern California, a half an hour away from the border there, and I also lived all over Florida. So I have lived on both coasts of our country and in between. And this hometown I'm talking about is in the Midwest. So I wanted to start off with that. I went to school in kindergarten and first grade on a university I'm sorry. Yeah, a university campus. It was an elementary school for children of people who attended this university. I went to school in kindergarten and first grade with kids from literally every continent besides Antarctica, and it was normal to me. I went from there to Southern California. So we were always very used to a mix of people. My dad, I grew up listening to him speak in Spanish in the other room to relatives on the phone, but that's not because they grew up speaking Spanish. I don't want to give that impression. It was like they learned it and they wanted to brush up on it because they had a job or for whatever reason or a new woman in their life and they wanted to brush up on their Spanish. So I was used to that and I did try to learn Spanish myself. I was never good at it. So I totally understand not being able to pick up a language because I myself cannot. Hi Martin, how are you doing tonight? So I just want to start off with my background and give a little bit of information on why I feel like I might be an interesting person to hear the subject about. I've lived on both coasts of our country and in between. And my husband, actually, he's lived on both coasts of our country as well. And we met in Florida. Good. I'm glad to hear that, Martin. So, when I was about 8 years old, we moved to this town I'm calling my hometown that I then went, to school through high school at. And I lived at as an adult. We bought our first home there because homes were very cheap compared to Louisville. Or, what we could get in Louisville was not going to be the same kind of house we could get there in that small town. Um, well, Fun Brie vlogs, I really like to use bentonite clay once a week, and besides that, honestly, I'm pretty cash poor, so if I could pick a brand, like, my sister will give me some really nice brands I can't even think of off the top of my head. Tatcha, like, that's way out of my price range, um, but yeah, like, bentonite clay once a week and just making sure I scrub the makeup off my face every night really helps. It's just some random picture frames, and then I've got dry plants. That is Nigella sativa on the left. It's also known as black cumin, and in the middle is statice, and then, on the right is strawcorn. Oh, that's cool. You're from Jacksonville. I've lived in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Orlando, and Naples, Florida. So obviously we're like big fans of Florida. We just can't get enough of Florida. No, can't smoke any of that. I see them. There's a lot of seeds up in those things. Even when they're hanging upside down, they still like, you could shake them and get more. So I'm trying to cut out the so's. I know I say that too much. When we moved from California to this hometown I'm talking about, the first day of school, my brother came home and he said, Mom, there's nothing but white people here. And we all laughed because, like I said, we were used to being on a university campus with people from all over the world. And it was so great. It was awesome. I took it for granted, but I mean, looking back now, I know it's what part of what gave me such a solid foundation and what is so great about America, this melting pot that we have, where we do have the ability to get people from absolutely all over the world in one place. And honestly, there was just one group of people that did not get along with everybody else there. And that might be like a whole other video for another day. But like they would not interact with us. And if you knocked on their door, they'd ask you if you were like one of them. And if you weren't, they'd say, go away. Anyways, you guys might be able to guess what group that would be. So the first day of school, my brother came home, said, "There's nothing but white people here." Hi, Mr. Gamer. Hi, Rolf. Oh, that's cool, Germany. And hi, Mediterranean diet. Oh, I love how this is so international. I don't know how much this interests you guys, but I know that there's countries in Europe where some of the similar things with immigration is occurring. So there we go with the so. Within a year of moving to this town, the demographics started to change. This was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. Yes, Martin. And so, like I'm saying, this town, it is in an interesting location. There's a lot of jobs there. So when I was in fifth grade, somebody in my class was a politician's child. Not, I don't know why I have to bring that up. It doesn't really matter. They went to vacation in Mexico City. They came back with the picture. That was a man on the side of the road. I saw this picture myself. She passed it around the classroom. We all laughed at it. A man holding a sign that said, "Come to this town for jobs." And we were all laughing because we are like, yeah, there are a lot of people coming here for jobs, obviously. And it was amazing how it changed. And this was years ago. This was almost 30 years ago now at this point. But there is one job where I can honestly say I know a few times they know that they're hiring illegal people and then they hire a bunch of them and then they fire a bunch of them and it's a cycle. I knew one person that was a manager there that got their manager job because they could speak Spanish. And then I knew somebody that worked there over a decade later and the exact same thing happened. So obviously they know the cycle and I think it benefits the companies. A lot of these big companies, they don't want people, they have to pay them a lot less benefits. They don't want people sticking around for long. It's like their MO, like the way I've worked for some of the biggest companies and warehouses and distribution centers. The biggest store you can think of, Wally World, and the biggest online retailer that we have right now. I've worked for them too. I have a lot to say about a lot. So the town, while it didn't change as quickly as some places seem to be changing, now it's like they every year they're switching schools around. Like what was an elementary school became the fifth grade center. Like they had to do this goofy stuff with making elementary schools one whole grade because they were just inundated with an influx of people in a decade or so. And now, allegedly, this is supposedly is hearsay. They are going to make a school just for Spanish-speaking students because so many people don't speak English. And this is not fair, in my opinion, to anybody. Those kids are completely innocent in this. They are not getting the kind of education they could get if they had more access. Yeah, it is really sad. And so my kid came home from school and told me how many kids didn't speak English there. This was years ago. And I said, "Does that affect you and your education?" And he's like, "No." And then a few weeks later, he's like, "Honestly, it can be a little difficult sometimes." And he's just like such a sweet person because we are all welcoming here for the most part. Most people in America are good. They are not racist. They are not prejudiced against certain ethnicities and groups because we are such a melting pot. We're just used to it. Even when I said this was like all white people, there were people from, other places. There always is in America. In the smallest town, we live near such a small town. There's still, Asian people, people from India. There's still Black people where I live now. But it was just such a more white people compared to 30 minutes away from the border where we came from in California. And so the FFA, Future Farmers of America, last time I went in this middle school, they were advertising for Future Farmers of America in Spanish and not English. It's not like they had an English version and then a Spanish version. It was this huge thing in the hallway. And guys, I don't know how to say it without coming off as hateful, but that bothered me. It bothered me that an association such as Future Farmers of America is catering to like half the population there. And it's something about it, it doesn't feel right. And that is not meant towards anybody there, especially children. It is what happens when people don't assimilate. A melting pot is not made from people coming and not learning the language. This has never happened before. We as a country never allowed so many people to come over here and not speak the language. We used to have that as a prerequisite. And most countries do. Most countries, most places would feel the same way as people feel here. And I've heard of towns in Mexico that have been inundated with, they call them expats, people that retire there, and they don't like it either. They don't like the way it changes their town and their culture. I can completely respect that. I understand that completely. It feels like This Midwestern town is turning into a neighborhood in Miami. I don't know what the neighborhood is called, but it's like very south in Hialeah where everything is in Spanish. And I know you're gonna be like, that's all of Miami. No, I mean like every business is Spanish, every billboard is in Spanish, absolutely everything is in Spanish. And this town is turning into that because these little strip malls, that used to have like three, four businesses, now they're like all Spanish names. And I am one-fourth Hispanic myself. My grandma immigrated here from South America. I have no problem with people immigrating here, but to see the way this town has changed and to feel the energy in it, like once you experience it, you understand this isn't racism. It's just, it's not America anymore, and it's scary. It might be Little Havana. I think I would have, maybe it was Little Havana. We used to go there to get empanadas. And it's great to have that, down in Miami where you're practically in another country that far south in Florida. I think it's great. Florida is so special. As I've said, I've lived all over Florida. I have no problem with immigrants. Obviously, I wouldn't keep moving back to Florida. I love being in multicultural areas. But what is happening here is it's turning into like one culture. And it's this very much like us and them, and not in a like combative, we go at each other, but in a, you don't speak the same language as me and we can't interact the same. This is, I live in Kentucky now in a very small town in central Kentucky. The town I am talking about is a small town in southern Indiana. And it's not safe to work with people that can't speak the same language as you. Like I said, I worked mostly in restaurants, but I've had warehouses, distribution center jobs, and when hi Candy, how are you doing tonight? Martin, I think companies would most like to take more cheap labor, right, and mostly hire locals workers anymore. It is very sad. Yeah, it is very, very sad. And it is frustrating, and I honestly feel like they know that they're creating a divide, and they want people it's like they want to start a civil WAR or something, because it's really frustrating as somebody that doesn't qualify for anything. I got furloughed from my job. I don't qualify for anything. And like we live below, our income is well below the poverty line. We don't qualify for anything. Medicaid, food stamps, no help. But people, if I went down to the border and walked across it, I could get all the help I need, and I would also get to keep all the money I get paid at my job. It's it's really frustrating, and they know that it's frustrating to people like us. We used to be able to qualify for Medicaid at least. We didn't get food stamps, but we used to be able to get Medicaid with this income that we are at right now. I have tried Spanish and I am horrible at conjugating verbs, so I'm not very good at conversation. I know a lot of Spanish words though, so like if I have to speak a little bit of Spanish to somebody, I can. I said that in the beginning. I understand why somebody might have a hard time learning English, but see, the thing is, I wouldn't move to a country where the main language is Spanish and expect people to cater to me. Once again, these children are completely innocent. I do not mean that towards any child. They didn't ask for their parents to make the moves that their parents made. It is very difficult. I had to be labeled a conspiracy theorist when pointing the open border out to my family. Yeah, well, and now do you say it Juca? Is that how you say that? Thank you, Tom. It, do they see it now? Because even Kamala is admitting that, yeah, they know things are a little too loosey goosey down there, and like things are only a few apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, have been taken over by a Venezuelan gang. Only a few. Well, if that was your apartment complex, that would be a pretty big deal. I don't want any apartment complexes being taken over by Venezuelan GANGSs in my country. That's not how it used to be, even in a place full of immigrants like Miami, where the crime rate is really bad. There weren't apartment complex. They don't have apartment complexes being taken over. Yeah, and like it was just a few. It's not a big deal. It was just a few. That was what the mayor said in Aurora, Colorado. I have a hard time saying that. Aurora. Okay. Yeah, Kristen, I respect that, and I'd like to not talk politics. But it's hard not to bring politics into this. But and that's another thing. They want us to be divided. I'm a registered independent. I have been since I was 18. I completely respect whatever somebody thinks because I know their experiences gave them the mind that they have, just as mine gave me the opinions and thoughts I had. And I hope you guys know that whatever you vote, even if I bring up something that makes it obvious how I may vote, I really do honestly, sincerely respect your opinion, and you're right. I would never try to change somebody's mind. Never. Oh gosh. Maud, is that how you say that? Thank you. That's really sweet. And thank you, Renee. So getting back to my okay, it's dangerous to be working with people. And another thing I'm gonna say, like this is a rant, I'm sorry. People go on and on about how these immigrants are like so hardworking. I've had this experience way more than the other way around. Yes, good and bad apples can be found in every single group. There's good, hardworking people in every race, every ethnicity, whatever you want to say. There's also not hardworking ones. And when you don't speak the language that your manager does, a lot of times you get away with a lot. I'll never forget, I was unloading a pallet and it was in training. It was me and a woman unloading a pallet together. And you have to go fast because it's a conveyor belt. And she and I were talking and laughing, and our manager's like, "Stop talking." Right next to us was a woman not unloading her pallet at all, just sitting there talking to a forklift driver, both in Spanish, going back and forth, tee and they didn't tell them not to talk. And it just that happened over and over. Once again, it creates oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. My light just fell. It creates a like divide that where there doesn't have to be because we all are in America where we're used to a melting pot. And most of us like that. Yeah, and I mean, it was like that um, at a at a Amazon. We weren't allowed to wear earbuds. Oh, but this one guy could wear earbuds, and you could hear the Spanish. Like it was like he was listening to like I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Like TV, like a novella. And I was like, and like he doesn't even try to keep his volume down because he knows you guys aren't going to get him in trouble. They know they're like protected in a certain way, okay? And like I can't speak for all of them. They're not all like that. They do not all take advantage. They are not all like that. But I'm just saying that happens an awful lot. And I really know in my heart we aren't mostly racist and prejudiced, but it's like it makes people have these experiences that might turn around and form prejudices that they should not. There's no diversity because we are all burning in the melting pot. Immortal Technique. Oh, that's Immortal Technique. That's a band, right? Am I right? There's harder workers under Trump supporters. I do know that the job that I recently had was in manufacturing, and I don't even think it would be here if it wasn't for some moves that he made. But I could be wrong. But I I need to get back to my notes because I'm all over the place. It seems like homogenous countries seem to care more about their people. They seem to get along better. Their social programs are better and work better. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and like people want to like immediately like this is not coming from a racist place. It's interesting to me how Japan works. How Iceland and Sweden and can be so different, and a lot of it has to do with the size. Smaller populations are always going to be easier to manage, and ideally, a community 200 people or less is like the ideal size. So anything larger than that, it's just like more and more possibility, obviously, of things going wrong. And it I love that we have a variety of ethnicities here, and it's like you have to keep that variety in order to keep the melting pot going. Once you get like literally 50% is like all like I know they come from different countries, but when I say culture, there's like they stick together. It creates for a very strange atmosphere. A rapper. Oh, right. Okay. Yes, my husband likes rap. I knew I had heard of that. And I was like, was that a band my brother listened to or something else I heard from my husband? So, and I want to say this that everybody, like, most of these people are good people. I can't stress that enough, but the crime rate has gone up a lot. It used to be a safe town, used to have great schools. The schools are not great anymore. Somebody famous from there it gave to the schools years ago, and like we have some of the best infrastructure in the whole states there, but it, it's not like it used to be. Once again, these are not these kids' fault, but I can't help when I hear things about the literacy rates in our country. Does that have anything to do with the fact that there's whole towns where 50% of the children can't speak English? And I mean, they don't have enough support. It's okay to not be able to not speak English, but it's not okay to, put this all on the plate of teachers. And the other children that are present also miss out. The people that speak only Spanish miss out. No wonder we're getting worse in test scores and literacy rates. There's it's overpopulated, the traffic is really bad, but that also plays into, like, some train issues that are happening there, but it's like there's traffic like a city, like, if I'm gonna live in a small town and have to live in a rinky-dink town that doesn't have all the accoutrements of a city, I don't wanna deal with the traffic. That's, like, one reason why I don't think I can ever live in a city again. My nerves are shot as far as traffic. Yeah, right, and, that's yeah, we used to make people assimilate more. You used to have to speak English, and it's I already said that it's dangerous working with them. I already told my unloading pallet story. Without assimilation, there's no melting pot. It is something that I heard people from Canada, people from countries in Europe talk about this. We had warnings from our neighbors across the world. And you have an influx of a population, they're not going to become a part of your country. They're just going to do their own thing. And it's fine when they're good people. That's why it's been mostly fine, right? Because most people are good people. Most people do just want the opportunities that our country has to offer, and they do keep their head down and they do what's right. But Kilimanjaro, yes, no speaking English. So Algie, at the very beginning of this, I explained my background. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. I have lived on both coasts of our country. I am mostly Irish, English, Swiss, and I'm Colombian. So if you're asking what my heritage is, my father's parents were both immigrants. So they came here to go to university. They got degrees. They both knew multiple languages. Well, my grandma knew two. My grandma taught school the rest of her life. My grandpa was a college professor. So they contributed to society. And uh, where I live in central Kentucky now, Algie, and my hometown I'm talking about in this video is in Indiana. We moved from there a few years ago, and we are glad to be here because it is a different atmosphere. There's more community. You completely lose your sense of community when it's like, are you, it's part of the reason why there are languages for countries because it helps when everybody speaks the same language. And it, like I said, it's not in a negative, combative way, but it is like us and them, and people are too nice to say it. Most Americans are too nice and not racist, and like I tiptoe around it. I feel weird saying it, but I really do feel like if my grandma was alive today, I shouldn't speak for her, but I think she would agree with me that this is a little ridiculous and not conducive to keeping things going the way that they were. We're not going to have the same country with the same opportunities at this rate. We're going to be going somewhere else for it. No stage. There's a problem with people coming here for opportunities because they impact our culture and the next generation votes. They should keep their knowledge and skills in their countries and improve them. Yes, no, Sage, I agree with you. I do, in my opinion, like I said, I didn't wanna bring politics into it just because it's such strong feelings, but I completely agree with you. They have an agenda. It doesn't make sense any other way, really. It really doesn't. Some countries in Europe avoid people that don't speak their native languages, KC 154. Yeah, I just think it's what does that mean, Google Life? Algae, of course, you're in the US, you gotta speak English. Yeah, and I feel bad saying it, like, I feel bad saying complaining about people not speaking English, but I really do feel like it what, JB? I really do feel like anybody would agree and, empathize if you have this shield up of, like, it's wrong to say that people need to speak the language, it's just I can't help you. Excuse me for a second. It feels like they're diluting what was a mix of cultures. It's like a dilution of America. It's not getting better, it's not evolving. I've heard okay, I'm sorry. And it's weakening everybody that is involved in this, all the communities, their community, they leave where they come from, they lose so much, and then we lose what we used to have in our own communities. Oh, that's funny, imitator of Jesus. I've already made sandwiches, actually. Already did that today. Yes, algae. No, Sage, people should not be scared to be called racist anymore. Actual racism is bad, but being called racist isn't bad. So I had a teacher in 8th grade, I agree. She said this, and it always stuck with me. Racism is looking at somebody and thinking anything of them, anything. It could be positive, thinking anything differently of them because of the way that they look. And that really stuck with me. And like I said, I grew up going to school with kids from all over the world except for Antarctica. So when people are like, there's no such thing as a colorblind person, I would venture, I really genuinely feel like I don't judge people because I've had way more good experiences with people of every race than bad. Okay, there's good. There goes the acorn. There's one group, religious group, that I was talking about at the beginning. That's the group that wouldn't let their kids play with us. They wouldn't associate with us. No, Sage, people should not. Oh, I'm sorry. I already read that. I'm racist against Antarcticans. That's funny. It is all about character. And you can tell, you look somebody in the eyes. I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character. In it's so how can you judge somebody when you can't speak to them? How do you get a first impression about somebody when there's that language barrier? It just breaks down communities. And trust me, I met plenty of people there, made friends with people that were from Central and South America that did speak English and did assimilate. So I'm not saying all. I never meant to, I should have said that already. Disclaimer, I'm not talking about all people coming here, all the people that came here now. I know most people are good people, but there's bad apples in every group. So you're letting like even more people in, there's going to be more crime eventually from the numbers you're letting in. Um, okay, Al Kelly, the racism has to do with power structure. I understand that uh, that viewpoint. I don't entirely agree with it. I do believe in systemic racism. I do, but I don't think that's like all that it's about. But I do. I feel like Black people, I feel like they should get reparations. We've given reparations to so many other groups of people. I have no idea why we can't do it for Black people. I used to think like, why? No, that's like, how do you do that? But then when I heard about all the other groups of people we gave reparations to, I'm like, this is ridiculous. That's funny, no sage. So we are a country of immigrants, people who built this country. And that came, from all over the world. But everybody assimilated up until this point. People are decent and they created what we enjoy. There's so much of this. Well, you took it away from the Native Americans. Okay, yes, I agree. What people did to the Native Americans in our country is shameful. And I wish that they would have educated themselves more on their practices instead of destroying the earth right now. We have so many military proving grounds all over our country where basically our waste from uh, projects like testing old radioactive waste or whatever, and they just bury it underground, and then it's like they have to test the water within a certain radius of that area. I learned all about that when we went to buy our first house because we made an offer on a house that was within a mile of a military proving ground, and when I figured out we backed out of that. No, Sage, Black people should get reparations in the form of land from federal land and land in former slave states, in my opinion. That's a great idea. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. They shouldn't get money from me for reparations. Yeah, I understand that. We it gets to the point where it's easy to just be like, "Oh, give this money," because we just see it being given billions of dollars at a time to other people. Excuse me, I am like losing my place left and right. I used to think we live like kings used to, and that's what I would tell myself. Like a few years ago, living on one income, we've been used to living with less, for a while. And whenever things were a little hard, I would tell myself things like, but you have so much, like just running water, the ability to wash your clothes at home. Like those of us that have been poor know what it's like to not have a washer and dryer, have to go to the laundromat once or twice a week. Right, I am. So, yeah, David, okay. Uh, you can be like that all you want. I'm a centrist. I consider myself a centrist. And if I don't agree with you, I can always understand where people are coming from. And I feel like we need a little bit more of that in this world. We have a system of checks and balances here. And part of that is different ideas. I would never want our country to all be one party, although it feels like the corporations run both parties. And thanks, Algie. I appreciate that. I do have a story about when I saw for a fact that corporations run our government. I think I wanna go ahead and tell it now because I'm just in the mood. So, 23andMe DNA test is filing for bankruptcy and selling people personal info. Oh my gosh, Casey, thank you for saying that. That is awful. I'm so glad I never did that. That's really big in the autism community. It used to be, they used to test for the MTFHR gene mutation. That is when your body doesn't methylate things right. Like you need methylated vitamins. And it was big in the autism community. And they took that away. They took that MTFHR gene mutation test out of there years ago, and I bought it and I almost was about ready to test all of us. And I got the weirdest feeling. I was like, it feels so wrong to send me and my child's DNA off somewhere. Yes, David, I agree with you on that. So 20, oh, I'm sorry. Now I'm totally losing my train of thought. Um, I don't want to come off as the type of person that calls the customer service line as like, I want to talk to somebody from America. I really do like appreciate people from everywhere. And it's not about not wanting to be around people from other places. Obviously, I lived in so many different places at this point. Gosh, I'm glad you said that, Casey, but right before that, 20, okay, how I lost my faith in the government. I got it. I pray that in my next life, I come back. Oh gosh, I didn't do nothing else. That's funny. So, in when I was 10 years old, I was injured by a form of preventative medicine. I don't want to say the name of, but I think you can all get the gist. But at that time, we didn't put two and two together because everybody's like, oh, it's one in a million. Nothing bad ever happens. But the day I got it, I fell very ill. I was ill for months, had all these weird tests. It was like the exorcist when she gets all those weird medical tests. It's like they thought I might have cancer, went to like two different children's hospitals, was sick, out of school for 6 solid weeks. I had 104 to 106-degree fever for days. They could never figure out what was wrong with me, right? Well, now I know what was wrong with me. Abdul, I've been to college for a few years, but I don't have a college degree. And then again, when I was a young mother, I was like 22, 23, the pediatrician is like, oh, you need to get this H1N1 FLU, you know what, preventative medicine dose, because you're going to kill your baby. Like he might DIE if you don't get this. And I'm like naive and completely ignorant to all of this at this point. Yeah, of course, I might KILL my baby. Give it to me. It will help him. He'll get your antibodies through your milk. Oh, it'll help him. 2 weeks. We were so sick. We slept in the bathroom. I slept on the bathroom floor, and my baby slept in his pack and play in the bathroom because that's how sick I was. He didn't just get antibodies. And I believe we both have health issues from that to this day. Excuse me. I want to read this because if it goes too much, I might not catch it. Um, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, Martin. There's a lot of people around. There's a lot of Amish, a lot of Mennonite people in Kentucky is great because we all believe in our own freedom. It's like such a great community. Like if you need something, absolutely ask your neighbors. But at the same time, we all want to be left alone and we like it that way. Um, oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Gets we well, I don't know how to say that. Gets we hat. That's sweet. So I was injured by this medicine. It was tough for a few years. I lost faith in everything. I lost faith in God. I lost faith in humanity. And like, how can this happen? It's not one in a million. Everywhere you go, every time I went to the ER, which was often, I was in and out of the ER. It was like, it's this. You have this. This is wrong. This is wrong. Well, could it be this? Could it be this dose of preventative medicine I got? No. Oh no. 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 Well, what is it? We don't know. Fast forward in 2012, there was a group of people speaking at this convention in Chicago. It was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dan Burton, a former representative from Indiana, was there, and I forget who else, but like some other big name politicians like them. So many people in the room. There's no chairs left in this big like conference room. And they start telling us, like, oh, they're going to help us. They believe us. They know we're not lying. They know it's not just one in a million. They tell us, look, guys, what you need to do is you need to go to Big Harma, you know what I mean, and tell them your stories. And don't be too irate with them. Like, I know this is tough and everything, but you catch more flies with honey. They said that. I remember that. They said, you catch more flies with honey. And that was a moment, like, 20 I'm sorry, I should know this. 24-year-old Lydia, 25-year-old Lydia was like, I snapped, and I can't it was liberating in a way. I can't trust anybody to help me with this. I can't look up to anybody to fix my problems with absolutely anything. No doctor, no government official is gonna help me. Actually, they're in cahoots with each other, and they just wanna do whatever they can to get the most money out of the rest of us. I thoroughly believe that the big pharma and oil corporations basically are our government in a way. They run our government. So even how good of a politician, how much I agree with what they say or do, I still feel like they're all corrupted at a certain point. Like if they're not corrupted, it's because they're not in power. Once they get any amount of power, they're going to become corrupted. And okay, I really appreciate all these likes. That makes me feel really good because this was a difficult subject to talk about. I've been wanting to talk about it, and I know I'm not the only one. And I'd appreciate any comments, like comments on the video too. I don't know how to get my live chat replay to replay with the video. Once this uploads, like after the live stops, I can't access the chat. I'm hoping that's something that will happen once I get more subscribers. I just do not know. I think I've said everything that I wrote down about my experiences. And now it's kind of funny. Since we lived here, we have had a few people be prejudiced towards us because we are one-fourth Hispanic. My husband is also one-fourth Hispanic, and he looks probably more Hispanic than I do. Our kids look even more Hispanic than I do. So I won't tell any personal stories about them, but they've definitely like made great friends. There's so many good people here. But we've definitely had a few people side eye us and treat us like we're the people coming from somewhere else and not going to assimilate. It's like, you don't understand. We want to assimilate. We want to be here. We want to farm here. And there was one veterinarian that was downright mean. And this was like on the Tennessee border because we were very poor then, and I heard of this guy that charged, like, the least amount. Shoulda known you get what you pay for, right? Not that all vets that are affordable are like that, but he started asking me all these questions, and he's like, "So you think you're a homesteader?" And I didn't realize he was making fun of me. I was like, "Yeah, I wanna be," and he's like, and just I'm not doing it justice. He was so rude to me. He was very mean, and he said that he's tired of people moving here, but since I work a job, that's good because the truth is, especially in that town, a lot of people are on drugs. We need people to move here to keep businesses open at this point. I understand if you've been here your whole life and you don't want things to change. I respect that and I get that. And you spend any amount of time around us, you see like we don't plan on changing anything. We came here because things are the way that they are here and we like it. And now my kids go to a school where instead of like tiptoeing around the people and like, oh, like let's be nice, we can't really talk about these issues that are affecting us all. There's like conversations about towns like that. My kid tells me I shouldn't be like talking too much about his school. It's not hateful, but people are aware what is going on all around our country. And we purposely moved somewhere where there aren't a ton of jobs and industries because that's the only way I think you can escape the possibility of that happening. Algae, well, he can always find some. Oh my goodness. Of course, I was going to read that one out loud. Um, okay, I think I've read everything on my script, and I'm surprised this is 38 minutes long. I Yeah, I should wrap it up on a more positive note. Where we live now is great. People have welcomed us with open arms, absolutely. And I've heard that a lot of people have moved here in the last several years, a lot. And it's very cozy. If you want to move to somewhere where you still want like some culture, there's tons of little universities, even like a community college, but universities attract more diversity. That's funny. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. But that's something that is helpful to keep in mind if you're like looking into another state or like somewhere near there. There's people of every race here, and I love that. I love America, and I hope everybody understands that my message is things are changing and it's not in a good way. And I mean that for everybody involved. I don't mean that towards the immigrants, like they are ruining it. I don't think it's beneficial for them in the long run either. And if anybody has experience they want to share in the comment section and get a conversation going in the comment section, I think that'd be cool. Logan, I've been having a good day. How are you doing? I'm getting ready to log off of here. I feel like I tend to ramble once I get done with my notes, but I don't mind chatting with you guys if, there's enough people to chat. I I actually wanted to talk about home ownership. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do this because it's like, why not? I can clip it and do what a lot of these red pill channels do, like talk for an hour and then like throughout the week release like a 5 minute clip from that hour long thing once a day. Yes, Martin, I know you're right. I do. I have pages in front of me right now. Thank you, Logan. I really appreciate that. Really quickly, because this is going to be something that's quick. My whole adult life, people have discouraged us from becoming homeowners. We could have became homeowners sooner than we did, but somebody, namely a person over on my husband's side who owns several properties, notice how it's usually the wealthy property owners telling people that they're not good enough. Oh, you don't have enough money to make the repairs. Oh, you just don't know how hard it is to own homes. And they're like stacking them up. They have like 6 to 10 homes. It's not too hard for you to keep acquiring properties and then charging us more to live in them than if we did buy them. And um, home ownership right now is harder than any other time in American history. However, there are a lot of alternatives, and I've been so glad to see that there's like a lot of homesteading channels where they're living in RVs on some land. Like I've seen that a lot around here. I think that is a great idea. It was not viable for us in our situation. I do not mean that towards anybody that has kids that does that. I could not, with our kids and our situation, my son's autism, namely the youngest son. There's no way we could live in an RV. But I think it's great for people. You can buy some land and live in an RV till things settle down and you can get something bigger and more affordable. That is a great option. Tons of that going on around here. Of course, you want to check and make sure the land is unrestricted. Once again, tons of unrestricted land around here. I know in Indiana, there's like mostly restrictions, so much. And it you'll see there's some counties where you're like, "Ooh, yeah, I can tell there's a lot of unrestricted land here," but there's plenty of counties in Kentucky that are not like a burnt out trailer every mile. And it's such a shame that these people that profit off of us and are making it so that people cannot become homeowners are telling people not to become homeowners. Owning a home forced us to learn so much. Yes, because we couldn't afford a lot of repairs. No, we couldn't. So then we had to learn it ourselves. And YouTube and the internet is so great for that. Now it's easier than ever to teach yourself how to like clean off the elements in your hot water heater. I'm saying this like I did it myself. Of course, it was my husband that did that. He, what else did he do that we got a roof replaced in our first house, and the insurance paid for that. I know that's not always how people look into it. I mean, we had true hail damage, but there is such a thing as homeowners insurance, and we sold that house for a very good profit. And it's because we decided, what time do I go to sleep, Logan? It varies. I'm a night owl, but sometimes I'm in bed by 8 p.m. too. Don't let people discourage your dreams if you want to own your own place. You're only getting older, and there's so many alternatives. And with the way things are now, if you get any little piece of land and develop it in any way and just live there, maintain it, add some utilities to it, you will be able to move up. People are like so stuck thinking, oh, the interest rate is bad and like houses are overpriced, but there's still a lot of alternatives, and Kentucky is a great place. That's funny, Logan. Well, that's also all over the place too. I need to come up with a better it's usually gonna be at night. I very rarely ever gonna stream during the day. I would say anytime from 6 p.m. to like 11 p.m. at night has been when all my lives have been. Lisa who? Nathan. People say I look like anybody with dark hair and light skin. Like I've been told I look like Winona Ryder. I know I don't look like Winona Ryder. One time at the driver's license branch, a woman said I looked like Shannon Doherty, and I looked at her. I was like, no, I don't. I don't look like Shannon Doherty. I just have dark hair and light skin. Mona Lisa. Oh, that's cool. I just saw a picture of. Um. Yeah, I just saw her. It was like the woman, not like the painting. Anyways, something different than the painting we always see of her. I guess I'm gonna stop rambling now before I get annoyed with myself. You guys have been great, and I really appreciate all the likes, and I I would appreciate any subscribers. And like my watch time is accumulating well, but it's like it's so hard to get the subscribers. So I'm gonna start asking people to subscribe, and that's something I said I wasn't gonna do. But please subscribe. I will be doing a lot of gardening content too. I know homestead is my name. We are going to start to prepare for next year's garden really soon. So I'm going to keep talking about like social issues and everything, but I'll have some interesting things. I hope you guys have a good night.